no, it's Karen.
Oh, it's okay.
Okay, and we're live.
Hello, fellas. How we doing today?
Pretty
Not
good,
bad
yeah.
at all, man.
Good. Today we have a very, very special guest. Bit of a rascal. Zac Mabry.
So let's introduce yourself, sir.
Well, hi guys. So like you said, I'm Zac Mabry. I live in Dallas, Texas. Currently, I host the Roman Circus podcast, and I'm a contributing editor for Catholic Herald magazine. But as you mentioned, when I was a kid, I was in the Little Rascals. I played Porky at the age of 4. So it's been 26 years now, almost.
That is a long time. So, tell me, there's a big kind of thing around being a quote unquote child actor. I was wondering, like, do you remember much from when you were on set of Little Rascals?
I remember something. So I was the youngest character in the movie. I actually turned 4 while we were filming it, so I was very young. But little things do kind of stick out about being on set, or like the trailers where we would, get dressed and where we'd wait to film. Kind of different events sort of stick out in my memory just because it was, my first sort of big life experience. And then a lot of it, it's like because we talked about it and told the stories and stuff, like I don't know if the memory is in my head or if it's just been like reinforced for so long that it feels like it. Like I don't know if you could use a microscope to determine if my memory is like the actual event or just having heard the stories so many times. But yeah, I mean there are definitely aspects of it that are still in my memory. It's not like I look at it and can't identify with it at all, like who's that kid or whatever. Like I do remember those times and whatnot.
And we're very conscious that like you did that as a kid. That's not like your entire career, obviously. But some people like attach that like, oh, when they did a movie, that was them. No, but do people just recognize you as being from Little Rascals all the time?
It depends. So if somebody, like if I meet them just in person, like I'm just, out and about, it's very not common. Like every so often, like one time I was at the airport and somebody at the ticket desk was like, you look familiar, and then guessed it. That was maybe 2 years ago. But for the most part, since I was so young, people don't look at me now and think like, oh, I recognize that kid. But online, it's a little bit different. Like I would definitely say on social media, I can usually tell when the movie's playing, like on network TV or HBO or something, because I'll get like a spike in followers and messages and stuff. So I assume people just go like search my name and find me that way. So that's where a lot of it comes from. And then usually in other situations, like if I'm at work or if I'm meeting people or, new friends or something, it'll kind of come up and then it'll be the topic of conversation because someone will be like, hey, did you know that about him? And so, but yeah, usually people don't necessarily just kind of guess it by looking at me.
Of course, yeah.
Yeah.
And have you gone back and watched it much, or is it just kind of like we've talked to a few actors now, and they say usually like if they've been in something, they'll try and avoid it for as long as possible. I was wondering if it was the same for you.
I think the last time I watched it was 2016. At the time, I had 3 roommates who were good friends of mine, and they kind of mentioned it, and so I said, okay, we can all sit down together and watch it, like start to finish as a group once, and I'll like give commentary, and we can kind of do it because they didn't know if it was something I like did or didn't want to talk about, or like they didn't want to bring it up and make it seem like that's all that they cared about. They were kind of sensitive about it. And so I was like, all right, we can do it. So we, made popcorn and snacks, so we watched it. And I haven't seen it since then, but I've probably seen it hundreds of times. I wasn't as like drilled in on the craft because I know people who are like career actors and they really focus on developing their skills. They'll be kind of they'll either intentionally not watch their playback or they'll watch, like, they're very particular on that. But yeah, so I guess it's been 4 years. Maybe I need to fire it up and see if it still makes me laugh, you know?
Yeah.
No, that's fair.
Cool, man.
Yeah, we had the actors from the Hardy books.
When
say
was the last
basically
time any
the
of
same
you
thing.
watched it? Have you guys seen it?
I think the last time I watched it, I remember when we were me and Thomas, we were both in a kind of we're in like a group. It was kind of a musical theater group, and
Really cool.
they actually had a kind of, well, I wouldn't say kind of production. They had something similar anyway. Hold on, my. On.
Hello, Tara.
What's it? The quietness? What?
Yeah.
Yeah, this is awkward. Jeez.
Sorry about this, Zach. You know, this guy. We call him the disappointment of the group for a reason. You know.
Give me 2 seconds.
You know.
No. I do like 2 hours of podcasting a week, and we almost never. It only ever works out for us if we don't have a guest, and then when we do have a guest,
Exactly.
everything breaks.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Exactly.
The
The thing is, we've had a guest every day the last week and a half.
Mm,
Oh wow, that's
we're
exhausting.
going every day, man. You know,
It's good fun.
it's good fun. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, aren't you guys getting? I mean, I was looking. You guys are getting a ton of growth, like listeners and subscribers and
Mm.
everything.
It's because we do it daily.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that definitely helps, and we're having big people on. We've had actors and we've had singers, competitive eaters, we've had ninja warriors, man. We have such a wide variety of guests on.
Years. That's incredible.
I know, yeah, and I think it's because of that we have such a wide variety of guests that we're bringing in such a wide variety of of listeners, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and like for us, I mean, at least over in the States, like I don't, get to talk to people from Ireland on a regular basis. So when you first messaged me, I was like, oh, that'd be fun, like just to.
That's a selling point. We're
See if
Irish.
you guys are like, to see if you guys are really like how you're portrayed in the States.
Yeah.
Lucky Charms, pots of gold, that kind of stuff.
Oh man, we don't have Lucky Charms over here.
Don't
know
even
that?
have it here.
I went over to the States, and the first time I had Lucky Charms was when I was over in Florida for a week. But like, I think we're so misrepresented in the States because we are. And do you know what kind of annoys me the most is when Americans come over here and they expect you all to be happy and top of the morning to you, and we're not. We're so
Life is a drag here. Jeez.
we're so we're normal, I guess, you know. And
Right.
Yeah. We have weird accents. That's kind of it.
I assume it's similar in Australia. Like, I've never been down, but I imagine people, like Americans, go down there and they're like, so, are you guys all like the crocodile hunter or whatever? Oh, yeah, I do want to apologize on behalf of America for any stereotypes we
don't worry about it.
perpetuated about
No, Jared, we'll accept it. Thanks very much, man. No, yeah. Dara was over in Australia there a couple of months ago, and he said that the people there, they're a bit like the Irish. They're like, they're nice enough, and I was over there in America, and the thing I notice most about kind of Americans is the way Irish speaks. It's very satire. We use a lot of sarcasm, and I think the boys can also agree with me in that, can't we, Jared?
Yeah, if I wasn't in podcast mode, you probably wouldn't understand a thing I was saying.
No, because we just
There's so much like slang that's
what
only
do you mean?
used in Ireland.
Oh, so this is, again, I'm not trying to do this whole like they all sound the same, because they don't at all. But I recently watched a show about people who like are in England, and I actually had to turn on subtitles because I was like, I have no idea what they're saying. Like, I've spoken English my whole life. It was the show Shameless.
Shameless.
Shame.
I've
I'll
heard
take it up
and-
now.
They're like basically kind of poor British like they're this kind of British family. They live outside of town. They're like always getting in trouble. I don't know. So then I had seen the U.S. version, and then I saw it was based on a U.K. So I watched it, and I'm sitting there, I'm like, I don't even know. Like, I know that technically that's like the same language that I speak, but I don't even have a clue. So I had to turn on subtitles, and I imagine if that's like England, then going further out, I'm sure, yeah, you'd be right. I don't know that. Okay.
Sorry, now is my mic working now?
Yeah,
Is
unfortunately.
it buzzing
Yeah,
or?
we're having a
No,
great
it's-
chat before you interrupt.
Yeah,
there.
man. Actually, we were
I'm
having
so
a really
sorry. Someone called me in the middle of the thing.
man. It's just really
And,
unprofessional, and
it
I hope we don't have to deal
completely-
with this problem again.
I will hurt you.
Is this how people behave over there? No, I'm just kidding.
Oh,
Definitely 100% kidding. I'm not just.
Yeah, don't worry about him. This
We
is going to
want you
come
to
out of his
be
pay.
harsh
It's just
Yeah.
no, like it. They called me and then it completely messed up my headset. So
Oh.
yeah,
Dara,
working
Dara,
wired now.
please.
Fight me. Okay. Anyway.
Okay, so back on
Yeah.
track.
When's the last
Dad, last time you watched it?
Yeah. So we'd like. I think the first time I watched it, as I said, me and Thomas were in like kind of a musical theater kind of situation, and we adapted parts of Little Rascals and parts of Bugsy Malone.
Mm-mm.
So that would have been around the first time that I kind of would have been introduced to it, and then the last time I watched it, I think maybe like 3 years ago.
Okay.
But I see like it's referenced in a lot of things as well then, and
Mm-mm.
you know there's that famous gift of you as Porky, and that's been everywhere as well.
I sometimes think that there's probably a whole segment of really young people online who like they don't know, and they'll eventually find out. They'll be like, oh wow, that gif's from a movie. Or they're like, they made a movie about that gif. Like that's their only knowledge of it. But yeah, the gif is everywhere, and for like the first several years that gifs were a thing, every day somebody that I knew would discover it, they'd send it to me like, have you seen this? And I was like, I have seen it a few million times. But yeah, no, it's funny to see.
Do you still get people sending it to you, or?
Most people, now that it's, because I mean, now that GIFs are sort of an established form of communication, nobody does the whole like, hey, have you seen this thing? But people do, they'll send it to me, normally to make fun of me though. They'll be like, something will come up and they'll be like, oh, I'm running late. And they'll say, you know, but that's okay. And then they'll send the kind of GIF like, you know. I've always said I feel bad for people who, if they really don't like me, like from real life, because whenever they open the GIF menu on their phone, like the first thing for the word "ah" is like my face, and so they like, it's like if they're just like, I never want to see that guy's face again. If they have a smartphone,
Every
it's
time
like, too
they do
bad.
it, they're gonna see it now.
Yeah, basically.
And how come you didn't pursue acting after?
So
or did you?
There was kind of a couple. Well, so I sort of did. So I did the Little Rascals, and then after that, I continued to try out for movies. My parents had a rule though that I could only be in a film if, at the age I was, if it was age appropriate. So like when I was 5, I could be in a movie as long as it was appropriate for a 5-year-old to watch, you know, start to finish. So some of the parts that I got immediately after Little Rascals we turned down just because there were things in the scripts, and my parents were like, you know, we just don't want to run the risk that he grows up and like wishes he hadn't been in these movies. But that kind of limited my options quite a bit when we did that, and so I would go back and forth because I grew up in Oklahoma. That's the one above Texas. If it hasn't made, if Oklahoma's not, what?
We have a pretty good understanding of the states.
I know. I think we're the only ones that don't know anything about outside the states. But normally, I'm like, everyone's heard of Texas in case they haven't heard of Oklahoma. But anyway, Oklahoma's Texas's hat. But so I would go back and forth from there to LA to film, to like try out for parts, and I would shoot commercials and things like that. But ultimately, didn't end up doing any more movies. And so after a few years, I just really liked being at school and being with my friends, and I decided at age 9 to retire from acting, at least for the time being.
Damn.
So,
would you ever think about going back to it, or?
You know, it's not something I would ever rule out. you know, if like the right part came along or if everything kind of worked. You know, I went to school to become an accountant. I run an accounting business here, and then I do a little bit of kind of writing and stuff, and podcasting. So it's not something like I'm actively pursuing at the moment, but it's definitely, yeah, never say never. And if the right part or the right opportunity or something was there,
How
I
about
would
the Little
be all about
Rascals
it.
sequel?
See, I think that they should, you know, we're all still around, and some of us are friends, and so I mean we all get along, and then some of us keep in touch regularly. I think they should just bring us all back, you know.
Yeah, do like a little
I don't.
reunion film. That'd be kind of cool.
Just call it Big Rascals.
There
Well,
we
there you
go.
go.
There we go.
Here's the
A few
concept.
years ago, we did a reunion, like a 20th anniversary thing.
I did see
And
that, yeah.
it was the first time a lot of us had seen each other in years. Because when you're, especially with the time, like we were kids in the 90s, so it's not like 6-year-olds had cell phones and stuff back then. So we didn't really keep in touch unless the people that grew up in LA. And so it was really fun. But then we did a photo shoot, which went kind of viral. But the thing that like went most viral about it is that everybody in the picture is doing the same face that they were in the original picture, except me. And there were like Reddit threads about this. I had like friends texting me and they're like, "Why didn't you do the face?" And I still maintain that I did. I mean, it's a composite picture. We didn't like pose like that on the movie cover. I still maintain that I did plenty of the face and that the photographers just picked a different one to use. But I have been told a lot of times that I ruined the photo. And so I think it means we have to get together and do another one.
Yeah, that needs to be done. We may have
It
to wait
does.
another 10 years. Well, until 2024.
We could do like travel films. Like we need to do like the Rascals go to Ireland.
Oh yeah,
Right?
definitely. And we have little cameos in it then.
Perfect.
It'll be perfect,
Is it?
yeah.
I know this is dumb, but like it's called different things in different places. Is it just called Little Rascals in Ireland?
Yeah, I think so. Little Rascals
Okay.
or the Little Rascals, yeah.
Nice. And you guys
Why,
like
is
saw
there
it
anywhere
growing
it's
up?
called
Is
something
that a
else?
thing?
Say that again.
Wait, what?
You go first.
I'm trying to remember. I'm trying to remember if there was somewhere that it's called something else because like Rascals had a different connotation or something. I don't know. I'm kind of maybe I'm imagining that.
Maybe mainland Europe.
I mean, yeah, I could see that.
I can see it in
Yeah.
maybe
Good thing,
be,
yeah.
be French or maybe
Being like the
German.
Portuguese word for debt.
Oh my god. Jesus.
Wait,
I can
what?
imagine it being something like that.
What's
I
the
wonder,
Portuguese word for debt?
No, so like,
No,
could
I
you
was just
imagine
saying-
the
No,
mentally?
I could imagine that it could be the Portuguese word for death.
Oh,
Like
debt.
it was something
Oh,
like
gotcha.
bad
That's
in
amazing.
mainland Europe.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that could be it. So, but you guys, because it's funny, like when I meet people, obviously that grew up in the States, most of them from when they were kids, they kind of remember it because it was not like a box office smash, like #1 movie when it came out, but it just kind of never went away. Like it was just, it sort of just was there, and then people kind of kept watching it, you know, for years, and so most people have heard of it, but so like it was something y'all saw as kids. Or I guess was it?
Wait, what?
Uh,
Yeah, it was like kind of like I had older brothers and they would have watched it when they were kids, so they'd have it on like another time, and then I'd walk in and I'd watch it with them. So that's like kind of how I was introduced into like a lot of films even that I watched when I was a kid.
And I told my parents that you were coming on, man. And my dad used to love Little Rascals, and so he was really excited.
That is so great. Like that's so cool to me. Like I didn't even know that people would have interest. Like that's so cool. Now it's like I've never been to Ireland, but now I feel like in a small way I have. But I got to visit as soon as possible. As soon as coronavirus ends, I want to come to Ireland.
Oh yeah, definitely.
We could do like a thing like
We do a live podcast then.
day in Dublin kind of
100%.
experience thing, man. That'd be kind of cool. Bring you to Tato
See-
Park.
Hit us
Like
hard.
the thing about like people, so like every town in the U.S. has what they sort of paint like an Irish pub. It's like an iconic thing. Are those any for those of you that have visited? Are those anything like what you would find in
Um,
Ireland, or is that
I'll tell
another
it to you
thing like
straight, Chief.
Lucky Charms where we made it up?
I'll tell
Shoot
it
me
to you
straight.
straight. I've been to the States a lot,
Okay.
and the short answer is no.
no.
There's no country I've been to ever with an Irish pub that was remotely Irish. A lot of time, it's a lot of British or Scottish things in there.
Yeah.
Like you might just have like the pint glasses that say Guinness.
I mean, I feel
And
like in
that'll be
Spain there might be
it.
some pubs.
Yeah, I'm thinking just because I'm thinking the only reason probably no is because they play a lot of Irish traditional music in a lot of Irish pubs, not in Ireland, but in Ireland that doesn't
It's
happen.
more,
In
it's
Ireland,
more, yeah, it's more live music in pubs in Ireland. Like if you go, if you were to go to like Dublin or something, it'd be live music instead of like kind of just playing trad music over speakers or
Or
something like that.
if Ed Sheeran makes a song, it's in the pubs for about
a year.
a year and a half before it
Yeah,
goes.
they have like some pubs. If the pub is big enough, it'll have like this. It's not really a jukebox. It kind of is, but it's like kind of a modernized one where it'll
It
have
never works.
it'll have songs from like 3 years ago
Mm.
at any given point. It won't have anything new. It'll just have songs that were new like in the last 4 years maybe. And
That's like Waffle House here.
Yeah, I've heard about Waffle House. Isn't Waffle House not allowed to close in case unless there's a pandemic? Isn't that like a thing?
Yes. So I think it's because they feed like truck drivers because they're 24-hour. They're open 24/7. And
right.
yeah, no, they didn't close. And then even so, I thought this was funny, but some of the cities in the U.S. where there've been protests, there was also like some rioting and things. And in one of the towns where that was happening, the people like the protesters all kind of stood around Waffle House and were like, "Nope, we're not hurting Waffle House. We love Waffle House."
I've actually seen that photo, and it's like all the other buildings around are like smashed up, and it's like they didn't touch the Waffle House.
I know, and like I just really love Waffle House, so that warmed my heart to see
There's
that.
not
You know,
much of a following around Waffle House that when there was like riots and they were literally like setting fire to other stores, they were like protect the Waffle House at all costs.
yeah, and everyone makes fun of Waffle House, so I felt very valid that day. That I was like, okay, like there's people out there that are like-minded that see the value of a good Waffle House. So
Sadly, we don't have
Um,
Waffle House here, but we do hear about it.
Yeah, a lot of things in the States that are absolutely beautiful, we don't have them here. And it breaks my heart every single day. When I
think
was in
we
the
only have-
States, I went to Perkins every single day I could because I love the food so much. And
to where?
Perkins.
Where were like what part of the states?
South Dakota.
Oh, okay. I've never been to the Dakotas, but I totally believe you. That's funny. My like one friend I have for North Dakota's name is Perkins, or was his like online name.
This beautiful, beautiful place.
Oh,
Oh my
that does
God.
look nice.
In there every damn day.
Whenever I'm outside the United States, I always feel like whenever I see a McDonald's or a Starbucks, it's like a tiny American embassy. Like I'm like no matter where I'm at, if I go in there, I'm basically in America.
I get that. Yeah, we're slowly
like,
but surely evolving to have more and more American places. Like, was it like 3 years ago?
Don't do it. Resist.
That we got the first Krispy Kreme in Ireland.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but
Oh, no,
we were in
that's so
TY
awful.
2 years ago.
And you got to drive like what, nearly an hour and a half to get there.
And the line to this day is always gigantic.
Yeah, they should think about opening up another one. Actually, it'd be really smart.
Wouldn't be a bad idea.
I know that's where like when a couple years ago they reopened travel between the U.S. and Cuba, and my friends and I were all like, "We've got to go to Cuba. It's like probably the only place in the world that hasn't been run by American chain restaurants and stores." We're like, "We've got like a year max before Starbucks colonizes Cuba." So, but Krispy
Yeah,
Kreme,
no,
those
like-
I mean, they every so often like a Krispy Kreme donut sounds good, but to me they're like not like there's so many better donuts. Not that that's why y'all asked me on here to give commentary on donuts, but I am sad to hear that.
Hey, we
Krispy
talk
Kreme
about
is-
anything and everything, so if commentary on donuts comes up, hey, We got it.
Hey, let it go. Let it flow.
Exactly. So what would your preferred donuts be then if it's not crispy?
So my favorite sort of donut chain, like brand, I don't know if you call it that, is called Daylight Donuts.
Oh,
I don't think we have
actually
that.
haven't heard of that one yet.
They're in the States. They're tradition. I mean, I don't know if the current moment, if it's, but so they're normally owned by Asian Americans. Like that's the stereotype.
Ah.
I think Koreans. I don't really know if that's like PC to point out, but they're like the most charming places. They have all the best stuff. I mean, look at that. You've got the picture pulled up. I can see it. Like those, to me, those are donuts. If somebody shows up with the Daylight Donuts, that and like some chocolate milk, like that's the taste of childhood right there.
Oh. That's
I feel like the
nostalgia.
extent of my knowledge is Krispy Kreme, Dunkin' Donuts, and then I think Canada has Tim Hortons. I'm not sure if America
I
has
love
it.
Tim Hortons. So
Yeah.
I thought I'd only ever had it in Canada the one time I went up there, and then it turns out they have it in Ohio. And
Oh,
actually,
wow.
my podcast host and I, that's how we kind of bonded, was that we were both in a wedding in Ohio, and we walked like in 20-degree weather a mile to go to Tim Hortons, and then a few months later started our podcast. But we, yeah, big fan. Food around the world, you know.
Yeah, there's kind of a fitness YouTuber I watch, and whenever he has like a cheat day, he'll go and get like, or like if he's doing like a challenge or something, he'll always go and get like a box of Tim Horton donuts. And Jesus Christ, like they look incredible. And
Yeah, are you
like,
guys into big like fitness trends?
I mean, not really, but like, you know,
Occasionally.
sometimes it's interesting to watch someone who's able to, you know, they could go and get like an entire 12-pack and then still be shredded after like a dozen donuts.
Yeah, that's insane. I can't do that.
Yeah, I
but
I don't
they're
get
But I
it.
mean, I
like
guess
plastic
I
as well.
can't still be shredded because I'm not really starting from being shredded. Like that's maybe that's probably half of why when I have 12 donuts I'm not still shredded. But yeah, I haven't figured that one out yet.
Yeah, it's like I think, don't they have them at some kind of like, you know, the coffee stations that they have in shops, lads? Don't they have Tim Hortons donuts at them sometimes?
Sometimes, yeah.
I think they do, yeah.
I wouldn't know.
But that's the extent I've seen of them here. It's on like there wouldn't be any shops or anything for them. It'd always be as kind of like a side thing in a like just a coffee area of a shop.
Nice.
Well,
Yeah, I think talking to you guys has inspired me, and I'm 100% gonna have an Irish beer later today. Probably a Harps. Is that what it's called? Harp? That's my favorite. Is that actually
Harps.
Irish?
What's Harps?
I have never heard of that.
I've
in my
never heard
life.
of Harps. I'll be real with you,
See,
buddy.
they lie to it. I like everybody. I had
Harps?
this theory that
Irish
yes.
lager.
Go and look it up there.
I've never heard of Harps, man.
That's not
So-
really Irish.
Oh, I feel so betrayed. There's this. Well,
Oh, it's rarely
made by
available
Guinness.
in Republic, but it's made in Northern Ireland. So
Oh
separate
yeah, no, that's
right,
not
of
Ireland.
course.
You see,
Yeah,
we're Republic of Ireland.
it's two countries.
I was like wanting to see if I knew how to make sort of a joke about that, but then I was like, I don't. I'm probably end up actually offending someone. Like one of my best friends, he's from South Carolina, and he was doing an event. He's a comedian, stand-up comedian, and he was. They introduced him as being from North Carolina, and the event that he was doing was. I don't know if it was like a Pakistani student association, but most of the people in the audience were from Pakistan. And he's like, I'm actually from South Carolina. It's kind of North Carolina, South Carolina. It's kind of like India, Pakistan, like same thing.
Oh my
And actually,
God.
everybody was cheering. They loved it because it was funny.
Oh,
But
wow. Okay.
I was like, I wonder if I know enough to make it like. But I it's for all I know, it's not even a laugh matter.
It's
so.
like we have nothing. Well, it's
No,
complicated.
it's
It's
we have a very
complicated.
complicated relation. The Republic has a very complicated relationship with the North.
It's
Yeah.
Because
we got taken
they're
over
Yeah, they're English occupied or Britain occupied up north. So they like we use euros, they'll use pounds.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's just a big long history. It's not something that we regularly get into
No.
because
Ever.
we talk about it. Yeah, like we
Okay,
talk
well,
about it.
I'm really sorry to open up that can of worms. I didn't mean to.
No,
No, it's
okay.
alright. It's not like
Podcast to stir
offensive. It's
controversy.
just like a thing that like we kind of ignore it now.
It's kind of like it was kind of like a civil war kind of thing, you know? It was.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was. The Civil War was about that.
Yeah.
It was like agreeing with the treaty or not agreeing with the treaty.
Mm.
Yeah. So Britain, yeah, it I guess yeah, it kind of was like the Civil War because wasn't the Civil War in America kind of like Britain occupied?
No, it was about
Versus-
separatism, wasn't it?
Was it?
So
The
we had a
South
couple.
wanted to
So we
separate.
had right. Like well, when we talk about the American Civil War, so this was in the 1860s, and it was, like the South basically seceded, like wanted to separate from the Union over the issue of slavery, and then there was a big war, and at the end, slavery was abolished, and then the United States stayed united. Was ours. But then we had, like, before that, a bunch of different wars with Britain trying to kind of get rid of them.
To get like independence from them.
Yeah, we had that, and then they showed back up like 30 years later, and so we had to
War
fight
of
them off again.
1812, was it?
That's the one. See, like, we don't get, like, we get a little bit of like Irish history. Like, I know about things like the Good Friday Agreement.
Oh, that's good.
Like,
That's-
I could, if you gave me like a map and drew a point on it, I could tell you if that was going to be in Northern Ireland or the Republic of Ireland. But I'm like, what I don't know is, like, yeah, on a day-to-day basis, it's like, are there people who live on one side, work on the other side, or is it like, okay,
Yeah, it's like it's complicated. Like it was, so we were trying to kind of get away from having them like having the British in the country or whatever.
Because
we
we're
want-
very different.
Bro.
Like the closest you could say, Irish and Scottish people are closer. Like we are nothing like the English people,
No.
really.
all right.
Like,
Well, you guys
realistically.
are good Catholics, historically, and the English are Protestant, so
Yeah.
that's always referenced
pretty much-
heavily
that's
in the
a lot.
States.
That actually has a lot to do with like the whole thing.
Yeah, our civil rights movement was about Catholics in Northern Ireland. They weren't treated equally to Protestants. They were denied work. They weren't allowed to hold certain jobs. Stuff like that.
Yeah.
There were very bad times. Like obviously, like there were some shootings and some bombings and stuff up north, and now that like it died down a little bit, but now that like this whole Brexit thing is going ahead and there's talks about hard borders and stuff like that between the north and the south.
Yeah, that's not going to go down well.
Yeah, it's really not going to go down well.
No, because it's like Britain invading any other country, to be honest with you. They left. They went in, they invaded, they left, but they haven't left Ireland, to be honest.
It kind of kept at peace.
Yeah, it's pretty shit, man.
But in all fairness, people up there, a lot of them consider themselves British and want to be part of the UK.
Yeah.
But there's also another group that doesn't want to be. Well, it was like County Tyrone, County something else. Over 50% wanted to remain in Ireland. They didn't get the option.
Now we're not gonna sit here and say that we hate all people who live in the north, like because I've
Oh,
actually
God, no.
I've
No,
met some people. They're amazing. Like
we love you guys.
yeah, we do.
We
do.
love your accents.
Exactly. They're hilarious.
Okay, so back
This
on
is
Yeah.
great.
Back
I
onto a lighter note.
I feel bad. I feel bad taking up your podcast time, but this is so interesting and this is cool to hear about. So, yeah.
Don't worry,
you.
no.
Sorry for derailing the conversation.
It's okay.
No,
Don't
that's all
worry,
good.
we don't really tend to keep these podcasts linear. We go off the rails and talk about whatever comes up.
Yeah.
Nice.
So the next thing
Yeah,
that's going to
if
come
you're
up
in the
on a
north,
lighter note.
follow these guys on Patreon.
We don't have a Patreon. We have a
Oh,
Kofi.
We have Patreon. We have Kofi. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. But anyway.
So
Like,
tell us about your
comment,
podcast.
subscribe.
Yeah.
Sure, yeah. So it's called the Roman Circus Podcast. It's kind of evolved over the few years that we've done it now, 2.5 years. primarily it's a Catholic podcast. So Matt and I who host it, I became Catholic as an adult, and then Matt grew up Catholic, went to Catholic schools.
So what were you to begin with? Were you an atheist?
I grew up Methodist. Nope. Protestant Methodist, kind of an offshoot of Anglicans. But yeah, so then after visiting Rome, I converted to Catholicism about 8 years ago.
Yeah, I was actually going to ask before we started, like, are you descendant, or are your ancestors like Italian or Irish? Because you're Catholic. I was thinking it was like a family thing.
Right. So no, my mom's side they're the Andersons, but they're Catholic. But I think that's a British name. And then the Mabrys are kind of on the line between France and Germany. So like some years it was France, some years it was Germany, and then they moved up to England. And so like the ones who came to America were coming from Britain. But they had moved to Britain from the continent, so it's kind of a whole party right there. But yeah, I don't think I have any Italian ancestry, but then I've got like some of my relatives have red hair, so I assume that's got to be kind of Irish, maybe.
Sure.
I need to this is probably all very offensive. Anyway,
it's not.
No, we don't get offended as easily. Stuff like that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Tough skin.
Yeah, hopefully that's something just Americans do, because everyone here it's like, even I get offended. But so yeah, and then Matt, actually, fun fact, my co-host, his godson was the guy who played Alfalfa in Little Rascals. Now he was baptized when he was like 30, so Matt isn't like super old. He's only been his godfather since he was baptized in 2013. So Matt's not like 50 years old. Yeah, so that's kind of the tie in there. And then we talk about a little bit of everything. Like we do culture. We watched all the Academy Award films and kind of gave our takes and correctly predicted the Best Picture category, I would say. We do some politics, but we get really bored talking about like what did Trump do today? What did Trump do yesterday? Like there's a whole
We
there's like
tend to
7
stay away
billion
from
other
politics,
people.
to be honest, because
there's other podcasts that talk about that.
we kind of want people.
If you dive too much into politics, it gets very messy.
Yeah. Like I would say when we do cover it, it's almost more like if we were talking about like characters in a reality show, like we'll kind of talk about like, things that they do, because I from that angle it can be fun. But yeah, there's like whole segments of like U.S. media that are kind of ruined because there's like 7 billion people in the world that aren't Donald Trump, but like he's the only one they want to talk about. And so and he was in Little Rascals, by the way.
Actually, I did see that on the cast list. Yeah, I forgot about that part.
Did you have any memories of meeting him or anything like that? No.
Yeah, no, we did. They were on set for a few days to film the cameo, and we had a lot of like
cameo in so many movies back then. So weird.
Right, because he did Home Alone 2 and that stuff. And at the time he was married to Marla Maples, and they had just had Tiffany, the youngest daughter, and she's about the same age as my little brother. And so at the time, my mom was still breastfeeding my brother Zane, and Marla Maples was breastfeeding Tiffany. And so they would like step out to breastfeed and like chat about baby stuff. And so we did actually meet the Trumps. Yeah, he like brought his whole family, and the 90s were kind of different. Like he was sort of marketing himself as like a business mogul and doing all those cameos, like you said. So I mean, what we told people was like it has no bearing on what he's like in 2020 or his politics, but actually it was a very like we had really they were nice. Like the Trumps were nice people. I was like, nobody get mad at me, but I can't like invent a story where he was mean. So just
start spitting on everyone and then.
No. I joke with my since he held. Right. Well, since he like held my brother at one point, like he asked, like my mom was telling us, he like asked if he could hold my brother, and she said sure. I'm always like, yeah, I say that in hopes that like protesters go like find my brother now. Like you've been You're unclean. You've been touched by Trump. But
You're unclean.
yeah. So
He's
but anyway, so
infected.
we do that. I know. It's like I was like he's got like orange handprints from where it happened, or but
Imagine.
It's like if you've ever seen Diary of a Wimpy Kid, like the cheese touch, just the Trump touch.
Oh, God.
Exactly. So yeah, I mean, I guess we talk a little bit of everything. We try not to get too. So in America, a lot of Catholic media gets really tied up in different controversies with the church, and we don't ignore those so much as we just think that those can be really distracting. And so we don't get too like I think we're fun. Like that's why we're called Roman Circus. Is we kind of talk about a little bit of everything, and keep it fresh.
It's pretty good. Yeah, I've listened now to an episode or two, and let me just say, great podcast. Very, very positive. You can tell that you both really enjoy it.
Or they appreciate that. That's very nice of you. Thank you.
Yeah.
You gotta appreciate something like that, man. There are so many, like a lot of media today. People just thrive on negativity, and if no one's
Exactly.
putting out something positive, it just goes to shit.
Yeah, because if someone's like a lot, I feel like people can use podcasts as a platform to spread their negative ideals or like just hatred towards other people.
Definitely.
Yeah.
So many
Yeah.
do it.
But from what I've heard on your podcast, you're definitely not about that. You're more about like spreading positive vibes and like spiritualism, stuff like that.
We like to say we want people to be cool and normal. Like, we want you to believe good things, like have opinions, like don't be, whatever, but you can be cool and normal at the same time as having like convictions,
Yeah.
You don't have to be like constantly alarmed or whatever. We do get in trouble sometimes for some of the things that we say.
Do you want to talk about that by any chance?
I'm trying to think of what are some of the more recent examples. It's like I like complimented President Obama at an early episode, and our listener base at the time was a lot more conservative, and we got some emails about that. But most people were like agreed with me and the point I was making.
Yeah, some people
we
loved
get
him,
accused
some
of
people hated
being
him.
right, and that like we just made a comment about, like I just said, he in public he was always so like polite, and there were never any personal scandals. Like that was literally all I said. And people were sending me all of this stuff about his politics. And I was like, guys, I mean, come on. Like, literally the most well-spoken, like, politest president we had. We get odd things of, like, people saying we're too pro-Trump and too anti-Trump. Like, it's like nobody reads each other's complaints about us.
But that's perfect.
And so...
you meet in the middle.
That was kind of... Right. This is, we're like, I mean, come on, guys. And then sometimes they call us socialists. But then sometimes they call us fascists, so it's like I never really know what it's going to be this time.
Yeah,
I mean, I don't. Part of it is like we're not partisan, so we're not super like, we don't really like align with anyone, if that makes sense. Like, so obviously in the States you have basically the like conservatives or the Republicans, and then the Democrats are kind of the more neoliberal party. And, like, we don't really, like, those, they're just sort of there. Like, we have things we believe, and sometimes it lines up with one of the parties. Like, we just don't really drink the Kool-Aid for any of that. And so a lot of times if we say something, it's like, oh, you're saying that you want everyone to have free healthcare because you're supporting this candidate or that candidate or this issue. And it's like, well, no, we actually just think like people should, like, even if they're super poor, they should be able to go to the doctor. Like we're not really like we're not really part of a party by saying. And so I think that some of it is we like sometimes if we're just talking about an issue, we're not necessarily aware of like if we're stepping on rhetoric that makes us sound like we're part of this group or that group. Like we just sort of do our thing.
you don't pick sides. And
Right. And like
by
I
not
happen to
doing
really
that,
like what
yeah. Sorry, go on.
well, and like I happen to really like the candidate that we had, Bernie Sanders, just like as a person. And so that was when everyone started calling us a socialist. You know, and it's socialism. Like people call everything in America socialism. So
Well,
like
what's
it's
socialism
weird.
to you guys? Because we got a lot of things like that here, and we do pretty well.
So in the so what do I think it is, or what like when it's thrown about in America, what does it mean?
When it's thrown about in America, because it just seems like they keep calling it communism,
Everything.
basically.
Right. So what it basically in America, it's kind of if anything is not sort of just left to a market, like if the government steps in to sort of ensure outcomes in certain cases, like everybody having the ability to have healthcare, whether they're employed or not, or they can afford it or not. Basically, anything like that gets called socialism. Like basically anything that steps in the way of a market tends to be called that. So sometimes it could even just be like regulating businesses. Other times it's things like like free healthcare or Medicare or like pensions if you didn't pay into one. Like social programs like that. That I mean, the rest of the world has. Like, I'm not like I don't even think that it's that extreme. Like when I'm like, well, in most of the world, you just go to the doctor, right? Like, I don't. I guess that's what I've heard.
Yeah, I got really sick when I was in the States. I went to Florida once, and I had pneumonia, and funny enough, I got it twice. And going to the doctor basically cancelled our entire holiday.
Jesus.
Oh
Uh,
man.
we went there, we had to go
Lucky,
home. My
I've
sister
actually,
got really sick, and same thing. It was cheaper for my dad to go to Ireland, get her medication, and fly back to America, than it was to go to a doctor in the States.
Oh man.
Jesus Christ. Man.
Well, and
have you,
like the thing that sucks about that is that like it doesn't have to be that way. Like I think that's what and I don't know if it's like the history of the Cold War that people think that if we stop having to pay for healthcare like this that we'll become the Soviet Union or something. But like lots
Far
of
from it.
countries that are not right, like lots of countries that are not the Soviet Union have like don't have a market-based healthcare system. And then we're always told that the NHS is like awful, but I've
Yeah.
never heard that from an actual
We don't have the NHS now. We have our own.
Right.
It's a HSE, which it's good because I think healthcare in Ireland is not too bad. There's always a joke
improving.
with
It's definitely improving.
with Breaking Bad. I always know this. Someone told me this before, but if Walter White had lived in Europe, he wouldn't have needed to raise money by selling meth, so he would have been grand and would have like been treated for
Yeah.
cancer and everything.
We actually had a guy from Breaking Bad on yesterday, and
Yeah, and he would have
it's
been.
great.
Have you seen? It's been in the headlines recently. Have you seen the man who was he was hospitalized with coronavirus for 62 days, and his hospital bill was $1.1 million.
Oh my god.
No. But
Yeah,
that was so I tried to bring that up. I was like, guys, I'm not like when I'm talking about this, it's not that I'm even a socialist or even that good of a person. Like I just mainly I don't want to get a virus from someone who can't afford to see a doctor. I'm like,
Yeah.
there's like a self-interest, like you can make a pretty good case, like even selfishly, that like you want other people to not give you a virus. That's so awful. 1.1 million for 62 days. And then they like freak out because people go to work sick. And why do you think that? I don't mean to get political, but it seems like, but when I bring that up, people are like, oh, so do you want there to be like Stalin or something? And like, no, it's not. Like I'm pretty moderate. Like
Just look at Europe. Take a moment. It's
right,
pretty
like
cool
you
over
guys
here. We
have
got it
it.
good.
Right, like you guys are more chill over there, and like look how it
We
works
have
out.
our own problems, of course, but thankfully, healthcare isn't one of them.
no, it's
Right. Well, that's good. I'm happy for you.
it is getting better because when did they introduce the medical card, lads?
Um,
It was sometime. It's sometime in the last few years. It hasn't been around always. I know that much anyway.
no, I'd mind taken away for some reason. I don't know
Oh,
why.
it's like we're getting better, but it could still improve because we have this thing. It's a medical card, and it's based on like a multitude of factors, pretty much. So like whether you've had like healthcare problems in the past, your income, stuff like that, and if if you meet certain criteria, you get this card, and it's pretty much if you have any like doctors prescriptions or visits or hospital visits or anything that you don't actually have to pay for them, but it's not like it's
Like
it
if you're
doesn't
going to
include
suffer
cosmetics or
from
anything.
a lifelong illness, basically the government will pay for part of it or all of it, depending on how much the medication cost.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah, like, so, I mean, I got pretty sick a couple years ago, and at the time I had really good health coverage, and I will say everything was smooth. But it was realizing that for a lot of people, that's not reality, you know? And that's where, so, I mean, I don't want to, like, act like we are just all suffering over here. It's just that it is, like, we could do better. And there are a lot of people that couldn't have had, like, the medical care that I had for reasons that are completely outside of their control. And that's where I'm like, I want everyone to have the experience I had when I got really sick, and I think we can do it. Like, we've got the nurses, we've got the doctors, and the buildings and the med. Like, it's just how we're distributing it. So I'm like, we could totally do this, guys. Like, we're so close. It's just like a couple changes, shake things up. But
Of course.
I've been like oddly serious. Like, I'm talking about like the Civil War, and then, I mean, I
Yeah, how
promise
did
I
we get
normally am
here,
like
man?
not very
Yeah.
serious. I literally this morning was
This usually
keeping
does
up with the
happen.
Kardashians.
Yeah,
No, this
we
never
were
happened before.
Oh man,
Well,
you
yeah.
didn't.
Oh, I don't think
Yeah.
we've gone on this crazy of a tangent, but
No.
tangents do
Yes,
tend to
yeah.
occur.
Yeah, tangents are very normal in this podcast. We do tend to get off topic a
I
lot.
think the
Kinda
funniest
like the
one
Joe
that's
Rogan.
happened,
You asked
the
like 2
funniest one
questions and
that's
the rest
ever
is...
happened is probably we were doing an educational episode on like exploring space and like
Don't start.
colonizing
Don't
other
start.
planets and
Don't start.
Jared actually got very upset with me over this because we were doing this and he's being all serious, stating all these facts about how if we were to live on Mars and given an atmosphere and stuff like that, and so he was like, oh yeah, so we'd put like microorganisms on Mars and we'd have a little green patch then, and then so I threw into the mix, oh yeah, and as soon as we have the green patch, we just throw some cows up there. Just slap some cows on Mars and see what
nice.
happens. And that's where it started. And then at some point, I remember a few years ago, there was this headline. It was the first person to commit a crime in space because I think they'd used their partner's credit card without their partner actually knowing. And they were an astronaut and they did it
Amazing.
from like, the space station. And so I came up with the term space cowboy because what they did, like they broke a law, so technically they're an outlaw. And as soon as I heard the word outlaw, I thought instantly cowboy. So space cowboy.
Okay.
And then Jared just lost it for the rest of the episode at me. Like he wasn't laughing, he was just like, I hate you. I hate you. Please stop talking. And,
Amazing.
yeah.
I love it.
But hey,
Yeah.
it gives the episode an
Imagine
interesting
getting extradited from the space station back to like the country where the fraud took place. Be great.
I mean, you'll like obviously you're going to be embarrassed because you've lost your job or whatever, but like you'll go down as the first person ever in history to commit a crime in space.
Isn't space like considered like international waters technically?
Space
So
pirate.
like, yeah, space pirate is what they are.
Yeah, it was in the Mark.
No, the moon is part of the United States. What are you talking about? We have our flag up there. We got it first. Just kidding. Actually,
tell him
the
the space law. Tell him the space law.
Space
tell
law.
me.
What
I don't
space
know
law?
it.
The one about you can't claim.
Oh
You
no,
cannot
celestial-
claim
no,
celestial bodies.
no countries
There is.
allowed to claim any celestial body.
Well,
So-
okay, but do
so-
those rules ever those rules ever apply to America?
Well, private
Just
companies
kidding.
can kind of do it, but no. Like,
The
you
the
can do it
church has a
effectively.
bishop assigned to the moon.
That's
There is a Catholic bishop that has the moon, like as he's the bishop of the moon.
wait,
Moon
really?
Bishop. We found the name of the
Yeah,
episode.
it's
Moon
Moon-
Bishops.
Oh my god. That is wow.
It has to
I'm
do with like
Sorry,
it's
go on.
basically I think it's mod yeah, Bishop Newman.
Oh, he's from
Yeah.
Florida. Okay, no, that makes much more
He's
sense.
from Florida.
Right.
That does
Is
make
that
sense.
and so like there's like this whole pattern of how that would work. And so since it was the guy from who landed, that gave that bishop. So yeah.
Wow.
So when people don't know if they're supposed to be fasting or not, if they're on the moon, it's like, well, you got to check with Bishop Newman. You know, there's your Catholic fact for the day.
That is
I love it. I
wow.
wonder, has
That's the
an
best thing I'm
astronaut
gonna hear all
ever
day.
been in contact with him?
It's the most scandal-free part of the church.
Andy.
That's a good one, yeah.
Well, guys, you learn something new every day, and
Every goddamn day.
I love hearing about moon bishops. Even I didn't know that
Yeah.
existed before.
Right. So I
Thank
mean,
you
if
for
you can
enlightening
commit
us.
credit card fraud, in space, like I don't know what happens, but if you do commit heresy, you get reported to the moon bishop. So you go to the moon inquisition.
Jesus Christ.
Wow. This is new information. I'm trying to take this in, and I'm
So am I. I'm just like, I'm
My
just
brain
trying
is
to think
just
how
like-
it works.
I'm trying to think of like how a crusade would work in space.
crusade.
I like where your head's going. Well, I like that. I'll just think that we got to get that going. Space Crusaders.
Oh my
Oh
god.
my.
Never
Dude,
mind. Now we found the name of the episode.
We found the name of
Space
the episode and a movie. Space Crusaders.
Perfect.
It's
This can be
Space
like a
Invaders.
bit like we filmed this in Ireland, okay? Because you guys have what I've heard really good tax situations for movies,
Oh yeah.
and Space Crusaders is what it's called. Hopefully, it becomes a franchise. So like Space Crusaders 1, Space Crusaders 2,
Get
Space
up to
Crusaders
Space Crusaders 17.
3. Yeah, 2
There.
Space, 2 Crusader.
I'm sorry. If
We
you're
just
wondering why
launched
me
it.
and Thomas are laughing so hard, it's because every time we've mentioned the sequel over the last 2 weeks, Thomas has called it Too, whatever it is, Too Furious.
Amazing.
What a coincidence. Like, what
It's such
the-
a good line. Well, the other one was the sequel, and it was Electric Boogaloo, but I found out that's problematic, so we dropped that one. But so yeah, no, we've just launched like a movie. Like this is going to be one day people will be doing like history work and like, well, there was this podcast, and they came up with this the next like Star Wars, except it was called Space Crusader, and it made all of them billions of dollars.
Yeah.
I'm liking where this is going, and we can have Matt Damon in it as well for a cameo. Because he's
Yeah,
actually,
and he's already done that
he's
space
actually
movie.
stuck in Ireland at the moment, quarantining.
Yeah.
Is he really?
Yeah.
I'm supposed to be one of his
Have you seen the
co-stars.
movie where he's? Have you seen where he's stuck on Mars, like that movie?
Yeah, we
Martian,
all
yeah.
watched
Yeah,
it together.
That's where
the
the
other day.
space pirate
He-
thing came from.
Oh, okay. And that's funny because he plants potatoes, and he's in Ireland.
Yeah. So now
Maybe
we
that's
keep
only
on.
funny to me. But,
That's so funny.
I just
I don't know.
I feel like I've literally rattled off like every American stereotype of like Ireland, and so I'm assuming I'm canceled in Ireland, like
Let's get
effectively.
you educated. we're not that keen on potatoes. Hey, we named an amusement park after a packet of
Thomas.
crisps. You know,
Thomas isn't that keen on potatoes, you mean?
no,
Because
I don't
mashed
like mashed
potatoes are
potatoes.
delicious. They're the best form of potato, in my opinion.
Wrong.
Second to maybe
Roast.
fries.
No,
No.
These guys.
roast potatoes, man.
I'm so sorry you have to hear this. I'm
I don't
really
care.
sorry.
Sorry. No. All right. Let's let our guest decide. Zach, what do you think the best form of potato is? Like, you got fries, you got chips.
Mashed potatoes. You know, he doesn't know what chips are, man.
No,
I'm
chips
sorry.
over
I know
there,
what
Chris
chips
Thomas,
are.
you idiot.
Chips.
Bro, chips
Oh, he
over
doesn't know what
here,
crisps are.
Chris. Just like biscuits over here are called cookies. But so no, honestly my favorite is like hash browns. I don't know if that translates, but like it's a shredded up potato that you fry. I don't know if it's still called that out.
Yeah. We know. No, we have hash browns. Yeah.
Yeah.
Here they're in one piece most of the time.
Yeah.
Well,
They're like
that seems to ruin the fun. Because the point is you can like crack an egg over it and like you can just pour everything on it. Yeah,
Like,
you see
that thing in
that
the top
beautifulness
right.
on the screen right there?
Yeah,
That
that's
thing in
what
the
they
top
kind of
right
look
is
like
what
in
we'd have.
Ireland.
Or the
Or like
triangle
that,
ones
the
especially.
skillet one with the 2 sunny side up eggs, like second row.
Yeah.
Like
No, that was good.
that makes me really. I'm doing intermittent fasting, and like that makes me really excited for my next meal.
How are you finding that
Um,
actually? Intermittent fasting.
So I try to do every trend. This is probably my favorite as far as like health fads that have gone by, because it's a lot easier to follow because you just don't eat during the time. So there's not a bunch of other rules. But
Pretty easy.
actually, but like my sleep's better. I feel like I focus better. When I do eat, I enjoy it more. Like it, I say it's all around kind of a win.
Would you recommend it?
Oh yeah, totally. I mean,
I'll
for
probably
men,
try it.
I've heard it can cause a bunch of problems for women, so I guess check with your doctor. But yeah, no, I'm all about it.
I'll break it to you, Chief. We ain't women.
Yeah, no, I just I want to give medical advice.
No, I get you.
Well, that may not be true for Thomas.
Well, no, it's kidding.
Sorry, that was the cheekiest thing I've ever said in this podcast.
Yeah.
Amazing.
You've said
Have you-
much cheekier, specifically about me and my relationship status.
Yeah, but like everyone jokes
There's
about
there's
that.
somebody
No,
who was
no
put
one
on this
jokes
earth
about
for
that.
you.
Just you two.
Someone on earth was put here just for
What's
you,
the-
Dara. Don't worry.
What's the joke here?
Girls.
Oh, every
Yeah.
time we like talk about relationships, we're always
Anytime we
like,
talk about relationships, we actually had a guest who he's a stand-up comedian.
Okay.
He's a real estate agent, and he's also a dating coach. And so Thomas thought it was funny.
A what?
While we
He's a
were
dating
talking,
coach.
a dating coach, yeah.
Oh, okay, yeah.
It's dating
Paul
coach, yeah.
Roseberry. You ever hear of
So
him?
No.
Okay.
Very funny.
he's
Sorry.
pretty funny. He's pretty
Paul,
funny,
if you're listening, man, we love you. You know that?
I'm gonna look
Yeah,
you
we
up,
love you so
Paul.
much,
No
man.
offense.
We still talk about you, Paul.
But anyway, so Thomas thought it was a very funny idea. So while we were talking to him about being a dating coach, he puts up in he'll randomly type into Google or like the URL bar, like he'll type like subscribe and stuff like that because he's cheeky and he likes to leave little messages. And so I watched him type, maybe we can get Dara a girlfriend now, and I was like, wow.
And then
Thanks,
I
Thomas.
straight up asked, "Hey, Paul, can we get you in contact with Dara after this podcast?"
And I like instantly after that podcast, I was like, yeah, I'm done.
That's amazing.
Consider
He's
me
like, you could
retired.
use discount code like Awfully Irish 10 to get 10% off your dating lessons, right?
We should talk to Paul about that.
Great idea.
Not for me. For people who may need it. I don't need it.
I had a pretty good question I was about to ask, but then you threw me completely off the rails.
Yeah, well, that's what you get, Jared. That's what you get.
You edit on the Catholic Herald. What's that like, and how'd you get into it?
It's kind of it's a publication that's based in London, and I became familiar with them because I was getting tired of news. Like in 2015, I just was getting stressed out watching the news, so I just quit paying attention to any American news. It was just getting all my like current events and stuff from the UK, and in the process started following a couple different journalists from London, like Timothy Stanley, Damian Thompson, some of the guys who were at the Herald, and I basically just followed them on Twitter, and then would like read their articles and post links to them because I thought they were interesting. And when I went to London, I just messaged them and was like, hey, are you guys like, is there a church you recommend in London that I should see, or while I'm here to go to mass and whatever? And then we just kind of corresponded on Twitter, and then one day they asked if I wanted to write for the magazine or be part of the team. And so yeah, it kind of evolved out of that. Like Twitter made it happen.
That's really cool.
Wow.
And so I haven't done a ton of writing. Like I haven't written anything. But my last piece I wrote was when Kanye West's album came out last fall. So
What was that about?
I just kind of wrote a review of why, because people really liked it for kind of it was called Jesus is King, and everyone was just vibing with it, and I was trying to explain why I thought that was, and so
Awesome.
What did you think of it?
I
didn't
liked
hear
it. I listened to it. I've loved this. I mean, I guess I will admit I haven't listened to it in a while, so I don't know if that's a bad thing. But no, I like Kanye a lot. He's like every time he sort of reinvents himself, I always think it's interesting, and he's just so much more talented than most people. Like he can do music, and he can do fashion, and he can do all the other stuff. So, I think he's interesting.
We're big fans of Kanye. I think.
Well,
he's
I
Thomas
think
is
he was
fan of
right.
Kanye.
I think he was right to call out Taylor Swift at the VMAs. Like I think that I'm on his side in that feud.
Oh wow. Okay.
Controversial.
He ran up. Okay, do you remember? Was this big over there?
I mean,
When, like
it was
Kanye runs
big,
up on
but
stage
everybody
with
kind of
Taylor
heard
Swift?
of it. So
like it wouldn't be huge.
Okay.
Yeah.
But we're aware of what
So-
happened, like,
Yeah.
Right. She won Best Pop Video, I think.
Mhm.
Taylor Swift did, which she was nominated against the song "Single Ladies," and like what I would say to most people is like, okay, well, I'm assuming you remember "Single Ladies." Do you remember what song Taylor Swift won for?
Having a
Of course not. Of
No.
course not. And obviously, in 2008, the song of the year was "Single Ladies," and it was a crime to give the award to a different song. And if you see a crime being committed and you don't do anything to stop it, you're a bad person. And so Kanye was a good person.
He stepped up to the table.
I mean, especially looking in hindsight, if you were to say to people, like he did that because of that. I mean, I'm halfway joking about this, but at the same time, like clearly the song of that year was "Single Ladies."
Yeah, definitely. Look,
This is
like that. Yeah, the moment at the VMAs has become just iconic, just because of what he said. Like, "I'm gonna let you finish," and then he just went off. Like, that is just. It's like everyone knows who said it. As soon as you say it, you just have to say those words, and you'll know. They'll know. Oh yeah, that's
I'm
the
gonna let you
Kanye West
finish.
VMAs. Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean it's like he's been vindicated by history if you think about the songs and
Yeah.
I
just
have
my
never
two
heard
cents.
of. I have never heard of that song. You need to calm down. And that's the song she won it for.
That's the most
No,
recent.
that's a new one.
You're kidding.
Thomas,
Yeah.
All right.
yes.
I'm just gonna
I
try.
think
I'm
she
just gonna
won
stop.
for.
Yeah, Thomas,
I
this
think
is
it
what
was
I
You
mean.
Belong
Like,
With Me.
we're gonna have to throw you off this second.
Shut up. Man. Shut up.
No,
I'm gonna have to
proving my
take over the
point, though,
Google
that
it.
the song that
Shut
she
up.
won for was unmemorable, and Kanye was
Yeah,
right.
like-
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, but with Kanye West, like, now he's done some crazy things. Like, he
Of
has,
course.
and he's he's had problems with like drugs and stuff like that. I know he went to, and he's had mental problems as well. But
We haven't we all?
yeah, he has, like, I will admit, like, his older music, that is it's fire for the gym. And he's actually, as many things, like, outside of music, as many things as he's said and done that have just been completely off the wall, his music is very good. And I feel like no one expected him to come back with, like, he was, what would you say? Like, his music was very provocative, I suppose. And then he came back with Jesus is King, and it completely flipped it on its head, like what his music was. Because, well, I can only assume because of when he went to get help for his mental problems, that like he found religion. And, well, I'd say he was religious before, but he actually kind of looked more into himself about it. And people seem to like it, which is, like, it's a very good thing. It was just very unexpected, I think.
Right. I guess to me it sort of seems authentic in the sense that, again, it's not like he, joined up with, like, a religious nonprofit to make a bunch of money and do, like, an endorsement deal for Christianity or something. Like, I mean, he was just kind of like, these are what he was thinking, and these are his beliefs. And so it was messy, and it was, like, I just thought it what was cool about it was it just seemed very authentic, and therefore it was messy, and there were things that he said that he later walked back, and then he did the album. And I mean, I thought it was cool. So yeah, that was the last time I put pen to paper. I guess I should do more writing.
It was very good though, because like usually when you have artists and they're putting out music and stuff like that, or even like movies and all, they'll tend to focus on hitting like as wide as an audience as they can.
Mm-hmm.
Just to make it as much money as they could. But with Kanye, like he'll put out what he wants, like what he wants to talk about, what he wants to sing about. It's his art, and if people don't like it, he's not really gonna care. And I think that's a trait that I feel like a lot of artists should have, but don't. And I think
Except
that's why
you guys have it down.
Aw.
thanks,
Stop,
man.
Stop.
That means a lot.
Make me
That
blush.
doesn't mean. But yeah, like he focuses on what he wants to put out instead of what people want to hear. And I feel like just going out there and putting it out there so openly, and that he's not scared of people being like, oh, here's like another phase that he'll be going through, like, because like it's not.
Please.
It's
Darren,
not
if you
at all.
want
like
the
I
show,
think
send him a
from
text.
We should have Kanye on, yeah.
Yeah, have him call him up. I'll send you his number. Just
Single
kidding. I
head.
don't have it. I wish I did. But like you'll see him make decisions that are really bad business decisions because they're his artistic decisions, and I always thought that's kind of cool. I'd probably just go for the money, to be honest. But I'm glad that there's Kanye West out there.
Yeah, and he didn't he start a Sunday service as well for free?
I think he did.
Well, I don't think it's free anymore because that's a whole thing. But,
I think it was free.
I don't.
When it started out, I think.
Yeah, it was free, and it was kind of like you could go to church, and then I think now you have to buy tickets. Well, with Corona, I'm assuming it just isn't happening, but yeah, that I saw some videos from it. It looked pretty cool.
Yeah, it did.
Oh, it's invite only.
Oh.
Yeah.
Well, if you guys come to America, I will get you on a list.
Oh my God, yes.
What
Can
kind
we
of
Wow.
please
Okay.
go to
That,
Kanye
just the way
West?
that was answered. That was so mean.
Yeah.
Just sorry, plebs.
Sorry, plebs. Like, why?
Such an
Why do you have to insult me like that? It's like that guy who insulted us on the backpacking Reddit. There was just no
amazing.
reason. But yeah.
Yeah, no. Yeah, I think I listen to Kanye's music the whole time, man. I think he's great, to be honest.
I never listened to him.
Thomas's favorite song is "Lift Yourself." You know, "Lift
No,
Yourself."
It's not Lift Yourself.
Thomas, it is.
It's
Anytime Thomas plays Kanye West, the first song he plays is "Lift Yourself." You know the
It's-
poopity scoop song.
It's not.
It's his favorite Kanye West song. I swear to God.
It is not. Don't listen to them, man.
It definitely
They're
is.
liars, man. I swear to God.
It's
Well,
actually not
wait.
that bad of a song, though.
Dara's
catchy.
real name isn't really Dara. You know what? Tell it.
Hey, no, it is.
Anyway.
Wow, there's like deep cuts here. You guys are just like lying about each other. And...
Yeah, it's like I'm babysitting two kids and trying to have a conversation with you.
Shut up, man. Pass me.
Oh, that's amazing because outside of the podcast, it's the complete opposite.
That's very true.
So yeah, what is it like?
Just
What is
come
the
on.
dynamic there? So you guys are friends in real life? Like you hang
Yeah,
out?
we are.
Yeah.
You're not like.
I guess
No.
you could say
So
that. I
who-
mean,
No.
sorry, continue.
So is like one of you the responsible one? Like if the others are like, drunk and vomiting, the other one's like cleaning up
No,
after
there's
them.
like
Or...
one
There's like
responsible.
me who will go to a party. All three of us will go to a party, and I will be face down in the grass getting sick, and then there'll be someone sitting above me laughing at me, embarrassing myself, and
yeah.
then
What are friends
and
for?
then
You know.
and then the other one is just nowhere to be found
You're gonna say
That's
that too?
friendship.
because he's probably off talking about archery.
And that's me.
archery.
Yeah. I don't drink anyway.
Okay. See, my co-host
Very good.
Matt doesn't drink at all either.
That's fair.
I'd like to consider myself a bit of a party monster.
Party animal, yeah.
Nice.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
What about you?
Nice.
Do you drink? You indulge in the ciders?
Yes, I've been like not really drinking as part of the whole fasting thing.
Yeah.
And because during quarantine it was like, wow, I've been drinking every night. Like it was
Yeah,
a lot.
because
But
it's
yeah, no,
English.
I've been
What, am I an alcoholic?
A lot of people
have
are doing
a-
that.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, the Queen has 4 drinks a day, so the rest of us can you know, you can't really criticize the rest of us. But the yeah, I wouldn't say that I have a bad reputation. I think that people, but nobody would be surprised to see me with like drink in hand, or like 8th drink in hand. You know, especially weddings. That's my favorite environment
I completely
to
relate.
imbibe. But
Fair play.
Yeah.
I read a
you know,
thing
hit the
and it
dance
was
floor,
like
cha-cha slide.
I love that.
everyone's gonna come out of quarantine either a drunkie, a chunky, or a funky.
What's a funky mean?
Funky, come out
what's a-
ripped because you've been working out every day, you know?
I'm hoping I become
Oh,
that
okay.
one, but I haven't made any moves towards it.
I'm coming out a chunky and a drunkie, bro. And that's
Yeah.
not gonna stop. Let's go.
I like your dedication.
I'm excited. So I think the plan needs to be I'm gonna come to Ireland. You guys are gonna re-educate me and like rid my mind of American stereotypes about Ireland.
I mean,
And
some of them are
then,
probably true.
I doubt it.
Sure. Well, that's see you'll kind of correct and then you'll reinforce the
Exactly. Yeah.
and then I'll come back and I'll tell everyone how cool it is. They'll all come over.
Perfect.
It'll be perfect.
Awesome.
Well,
Looking forward to them.
that sounds like a fun journey that we're gonna have.
Yeah.
I'll bring Matt. I'm gonna bring my co-host Matt though, so that way you guys can talk. You can tell him about
We can
archery
have
while
a
you guys aren't drinking.
huge crossover podcast.
Yes, we did that with the podcast in Canada once. It's pretty fun.
We should definitely do that, and we'll go to like the non-touristy pubs, just so they don't charge you like €10 for a pint.
Do you guys call it
Oh,
pints
man,
in
how
the
much-
US?
Usually just like nostalgic, like yes, but normally they would just say they want like a beer. Like if someone said they were gonna go to the bar for a pint, they'd probably be. It's kind of like they'd be trying to sound Irish
What's
by
Irish?
saying that.
Oh.
They'd probably do it. They'd probably do an accent.
Yeah, there's a lot of people who love to say they're Irish.
They
Like-
are, yeah.
Like it's a fact that there's more Irish people outside of Ireland than there is in Ireland because
That's crazy.
we had this huge migration of people during the famine. Most of which went to the US.
Yeah, you guys kind of run the place over here historically.
Yeah, we've got our people all over the place. We got them in America, we got them in England, we got them in Australia, we got
Listen.
them in Canada.
We've got people all over the globe.
They're
You know
like Russian sleeper agents, but you know, just
so
get
don't
drunk.
start on us. As soon as they have
Yeah,
one
I would
sip
never
of
mess
Guinness,
with.
the Irish comes
I
out.
would never mess with the Irish.
No. But,
Yeah, you wouldn't want to.
Dara. No, we're
wait,
we're
I'm-
sound. Don't worry.
No, we're
I'm
not that
supposed to
bad.
ask. I was told to ask one question. So we have the University of it's pronounced Notre Dame here, and their mascot's the Fighting Irish. Are you guys familiar with this in the United States?
Fight.
Okay.
No, wait, what?
And why is it
So-
called Notre Dame?
Like NOTREDAME, like Notre Dame.
Yeah, like
It's-
Notre Dame
it's a Catholic school.
in French.
So
Yeah.
they say Notre Dame, which is there's
so
history that I don't
bad.
know. Anyway, I want to know if this mascot's offensive to you or not. I've been told I have to ask.
Let's have a look.
Oh, that's
Oh my god.
Jesus. I know a lot that looks like that.
Yeah, it's me.
Wait, you do?
I know about 20
So
lads
is
that look like
that-
that.
Jared's actually one of them.
Far from it.
Ah, come on. Like,
So like
All right.
what if
You
you were
took
to
off the
sign a
green clothes,
percentage
Jared,
like
look like that.
What percentage like racist is this? Like 20%?
100.
I mean,
100%?
If with the ginger hair, it's probably like 70. Without, it's probably like 67.
I mean, if I was at a game or whatever, this is there, I wouldn't really care at all.
Yeah, it's not like this whole thing where it's like, holy shit, they're like
we're Irish, we're not like a suppressed
culture.
minority. Like we have it pretty well. I don't mind.
Yeah, no, I mean obviously nobody would like cry.
Like you could say the same about the Boston Celtics, like you know.
They say it wrong as well. Why do they say it wrong?
Celtics.
No, the Boston. No, you pronounce it the Boston Celtics, but it's Celtic. If it's like mythology, you also say Celtic as well if it's the football.
The Celtic people, which are the Highlanders.
Well, that's what I have. That's what I get because like I speak some French and I like to go to France because I grew up with the University of Notre Dame. I constantly will say it the wrong way. Like I'll be like referring to like Notre Dame de Paris, but I'll say Notre Dame, or I'll be referring to the school and I'll say Notre Dame. And it's like I can never keep it straight. I'm like, is this the fake American pronunciation, or am I supposed to say the real word? Like, Anyway, I wanted to ask. The true really Irish opinion on the Fighting Irish.
Yeah, it's not that offensive. It's just kind of it's a leprechaun, you know.
It's not even it's not offensive. It's just kind of dumb, because
I mean, if you threw green clothes on Conor McGregor, same effect.
Yeah.
I mean, sure. Look.
When he is their football mascot. Like they're saying, this is like a tough guy. Like he's going to defeat the other team.
The tough Irishman, man. That's what it is. It should be taken as like a power symbol.
Oh yeah, of course.
Oh come on! Come on!
It's getting harder and harder to do this. No.
Why don't they just have like a proper Irish person be the mascot? They should. They really should.
Who's the most Irish? Like, oh, I'm 1/5. Oh, I'm a quarter. I'm half.
Exactly.
Irish.
Have 100%
here is at least a quarter Irish.
So
I feel like everyone in America is like part Irish at least.
No.
Because there's so many Irish. Well, maybe I'm wrong, but
they're
I
not
would think
Irish. They're Irish.
No, like
I know. I'm just saying they'd have to set it a lot higher. If they were to set it at a quarter, they'd have like everybody setting it. But they would need to set it at like 75% Irish or something.
Yeah.
Yeah. I feel like people they say they're Irish, but they're so far removed from like what we think as Irish that we're just like, no, you're not.
Yeah, no, that's the joke is like, oh, we're having authentic Irish cuisine. We're gonna have Guinness and then a bowl of Lucky Charms, which is to say, like, I mean, Guinness is real, but obviously to say like an entirely like Americanized sort of fantasy version of Ireland.
Yeah, which is very funny because like I think I've seen maybe one box of Lucky Charms in my entire life.
There's two things you can get in America that are Irish, and there's 100% Irish, and I'd swear by them. The only things you can get that are pure Irish in the States. Okay. That's Kerrygold butter.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And Guinness. That is literally it.
And like this everything podcast else is brought to you by.
No.
No, like I was there. I actually went looking because my parents were like in Walmart because. I don't know, I like Walmart. So I was walking around with my brother. It's like, okay, let's see if we can find anything Irish.
It's like the town hall in any part of America. Walmart.
If you want to get a load of Irish stuff, man, there's these things called loot crates. And they'll send you these things. No, not loot crates. There's like a...
subscription.
There's like these things, and we sent one out to my uncle there a couple of weeks ago, where they send you a load of Irish traditional food and snacks. And
can you send me one, even though I'm in Ireland?
I think it's like the food hamper, something like that, and they'll send them out to America and everything, and you'll get like, just say there now, yeah. So like you'll get like a thing of Tato's, which is our national crisps, and chocolate and biscuits, and you get like you'll get all the good stuff.
There is nothing.
Wait,
like
they'll send this to the States.
They'll send if you order that online. You if you look up Irish gift box or something, man, you'll find a website and they'll send you a load of Irish food to the States.
Yeah, it's weird. Or we can send our food to you. You can't send it to us because GMOs and all that stuff.
But
Yeah, see, like, why would anybody want that?
I have to say though, like when you're thousands of miles away from home, there is nothing like because I think the best experience I've had, man, when I was in Australia, it was like halfway through when I was there, and they have Cadbury's, but it's not the same. Like they have the same chocolate, it's not the same. There was two things I had over there. I had a bag of potato. I found it on a shelf, one bag left, and I was like, oh my, like I am freaking right now. And then my brother brought home a can of Club Orange or Rock
Oh
Shandy.
wow.
It
Oh,
was Rock Shandy, and I was like, oh
Rock.
my god, I owe you.
Those look delicious.
Oh, they actually
Those
are
are
the best
delicious.
ever. Oh,
I wonder
what's
do you
even
have,
better
like,
than
a kind
having
of a-
one bag of crisps
What?
is having an amusement park dedicated to them.
it's like the equivalent of Hersheyland, you know Hersheyland. It's like that,
We
but
have that?
for potato chips, yeah.
That is amazing.
Yeah, there's
Okay,
like
so when I come to Ireland, we're going to
we're going to Tato Park, yeah.
Tato
Perfect. We'll see you there.
Oh,
We
definitely.
have
It's
to.
it's like I think that's what, isn't it, the biggest or no, it's the fastest.
It's the second. No, it's the second biggest wooden roller coaster in Europe.
We have in
how
my
many are there?
town. Right, there's actually not that many because we have one of the wooden roller coasters near where I live, and they're kind of unpleasant to ride on. I guess I'm glad it's there for the history, but they're very jerky. But yeah, metal was such a good invention, I think.
Yeah, we rarely get like good roller coasters. Like you always see in like Six Flags and stuff. Like I think the one thing that I've always seen is the King Ka, which is I think the tallest in the world. And it's like
I don't know if
I can't remember how tall it is, but it just absolutely it's not even that long either. It just like rockets you at this thing and you go up like 90 degrees, and it's like an arch, and then that's it.
Mm.
It's over in like 20 seconds.
Oh wow.
Where is it?
It's I can't remember. It's at I think it's
That
Six Flags
looks
somewhere.
really cool.
Kindercars roller coaster. It's Six Flags. It's Six Flags. Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh,
Six
New
Flags. Yeah.
Jersey. Okay, there's
Yeah.
a bunch of Six Flags. Okay, so I'd have to go to New Jersey to do this.
I've
I
been
could be
on.
convinced.
I think the best roller coaster I've ever been on is when I went to Universal in Florida and I went on the Hulk Man. Have you ever been there?
I have not been
Jesus.
to Universal Florida since I was really young, so
Yeah.
I don't think I was old enough for that. But that is a pretty sick ride.
I went on
my
that,
favorite
man.
roller coaster. My favorite roller coaster park is called Cedar Point. Like, yeah, and I think it's in Ohio.
I was supposed to go to that.
And-
I was supposed to go to Ohio this year and visit my aunt and uncle. I was supposed to go to that, man. Cedar Point,
Oh,
yeah.
that looks so good.
So it's purely roller coasters. They don't have any kind of theme or anything. So it's not like, Disney or whatever. And they just have so many different cool things. Like anything you could think of, they've got a ride that does. I haven't been in years, but so if you do want to come to the States and ride roller coasters, visit the lovely state of Ohio and go to Cedar Point.
I think the best roller coaster I've ever been on is Abyss in Perth, and it's one of those ones where it's you go 90 degrees up instead of 45, and then it's like a -degree drop. It's like Thomas.
Oh,
If you look
wow.
up a picture of it there, you'll see the drop. It's like no, where's the drop on it? Because the drop is like you go
Is that the drop
kind of
there,
up
no?
the drop. No,
Yeah. No?
nope. It's there. There it is. See,
Yeah.
that kind of dull picture. No, go back down. That one there, that dull picture. See that on the right? That's the drop.
Jesus.
So you go
Christ.
up straight and then come down, like at a -degree. It's pretty good though. I thought it was going to be terrifying. It's mostly blinding when you go up though because you're staring straight at the sun. And it's in Australia, so the sun is very bright and hot.
Does it take your picture during the drop?
It takes it. There's kind of an inside section at the start, and it's completely in blackness, like you can't see anything. And then
Mhm.
it takes your picture.
Nice.
I wish I took your picture on the drop though, because that'd be pretty good.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's a perfect place to end it.
And it's
This
been
has
an honor
fun,
having you on.
guys.
It's
Thank you.
I'm sorry we went on the tangent.
I really appreciate the invitation. Very flattered to have been invited. This was fun. You guys are awesome.
You're fucking awesome, man. We'll send you a link to the video in case you ever want to show it to your friends. You know, educate them on Irish culture.
We're gonna leave links to the Roman Circus podcast in our description. Make sure you guys go check that out, please.
So if people want to find you online, follow you, whatever, where can they find you?
Best place is on Twitter, just at Zac Mabry, ZACMABRY. And yeah, sometimes I deactivate, but 99% of the time you can find me.
Perfect. All right, Graham. We'll leave that linked as well.
Man,
right,
thanks so much for coming on.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks a million.
To everyone watching, thank you.
Yeah, we had a lot of fun. Definitely.
This was very fun.
That's our first topics, definitely.
Make sure to tell your grandma about the podcast.
Yeah, like, subscribe, tell your grandma, tell your cousin, and take her handy.
Do all that stuff.
And good luck to you.